Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some breaking news coming out of College Station this morning as Conner Weigman announced that he's going to be missing the rest of the season with that foot ankle injury. And what I would say here is this. One, it's brutal to see because you saw Conner Weigman through the first four games really start to put it together. We saw glimpses of it towards the back end of his true freshman campaign, but you watched the first couple of games. He looked in control of this offense, making the right reads, balls coming out on time accurately. This Texas A&M passing attack just looked so much cleaner with Conner Weigman. I think it was evident that he was taking that step with Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino. It hurts. That being said, you have to have the conversation of next man up. And Texas A&M, you hear a lot of people on Twitter call this could be the end of the season for Texas A&M. I don't think that's farther from the truth. I mean, you have a guy in Max Johnson who is probably one of, if not the best backup quarterback that you see across the country. He's starting on a majority of Power 5 teams, a majority of SEC teams right now. So Max Johnson, now your starter. Going to talk a little bit about what this offense is going to look like and kind of the ramifications of this. Before we do again, just want to say thank you to you guys and especially the Texas A&M fans. We've previewed a bunch of these games. Just did that Texas A&M Arkansas game. The support from you guys truly does mean a lot. We've been really high on this program. The talent is certainly there. You're seeing the offense start to click. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, you want to support the fellas, consider subscribing to the channel. And then secondly, I would love to hear your guys' takes in the comment section. I'm going to give you guys some of my takes on what I've seen from this offense, what we saw from Max Johnson in that second half of that Auburn game. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. And let's get into it. And I want to talk about Max Johnson for one. You go back to his time at LSU. I mean, in the 2021 season, he was really, really good for LSU. 27 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions, threw for almost 3,000 yards. This is one of the better, probably the best. I would be hard-pressed to find many backup quarterbacks that are as good and as experienced as Max Johnson. You have a quarterback in Max Johnson who's played and started at the SEC level at LSU. He was on the bench behind Conner Weigman. When he came in for that Auburn game, I'm not necessarily going to say he runs the offense better than Conner Weigman because it was such a small sample size, but I mean, we all saw it. That offense looked really clean, really crisp, and executed in the red zone. Max Johnson brings a lot to this Texas A&M offense. And what I think is even more impressive, and I think what you're a Texas A&M fan and you're kind of optimistic about, is you saw the talent around the quarterback position really kind of take that next step. Starting with the offensive line, this was a group that I've been kind of critical on during the offseason in terms of they got the guys. Just Coach Adazi's got to get these dudes blocking right because the talent is there on the offensive line. I just don't think the play on the field was quite there. I thought in the Auburn game, you saw that group really come together. I thought they were solid in pass pro, really could run the football a lot better. And that was a good Auburn front seven. That Auburn offense stinks. Don't get me wrong, but that Auburn defense is very, very good. And Texas A&M, specifically on that offensive line, really getting it going. And what is the best thing you can do to kind of settle in a new quarterback is establish that run game. And you have an offensive line that I think is getting much better. And you got a trio of running backs who, this running back room, absolutely loaded. You lose Devon Achane to the NFL draft. I think a lot of people just assumed this run game would take a step back. Mari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss, running the rock really, really hard. And you have true freshman Reuben Owens, who you can tell when Reuben Owens comes in and gets that ball, like there's a different element of juice to that game. This running attack, when you have Amari Daniels, Le'Veon Moss, both averaging over 5.8 yards per carry. Reuben Owens a little lower, but I kind of expect that to continue to rise as he kind of gets his feet wet at the college football level. 3 really good running backs, a really good offensive line. And then we said this all year, like one of, if not the best wide receiver room in the SEC, starting with Evan Stewart, who, you guys know how I feel about Evan Stewart. If you listened to what we talked about for that Arkansas Texas A&M game preview, what you're seeing them do really well is, they're going to Evan Stewart. He's going to get his touches. That being said, when you have an elite wide receiver on the boundary, like boundary cornerbacks, safeties, they have to respect somebody like Evan Stewart. I think he's legitimately probably the second best wide receiver in the whole entire country outside of that guy up in Columbus, Marvin Harrison Jr. what happens when you have someone like Evan Stewart? I'd probably throw Noah Thomas into there too when healthy. It opens up the middle of the field. And you're seeing a guy that I feel like everybody across the country has forgotten about due to the injury, due to Evan Stewart. Ainias Smith, I mean, he is absolutely eating teams up in the middle of the field. He is a guy, Smith's a guy that you want to get the football to quick, early in space, let him work after the catch. And you see Smith really comfortable in where to settle his routes. I mean, he really experienced 6-year senior, I believe, 5th or 6th year, one of the two, been around the block a couple times. The best part about his game, not only is he a twitched up freak athlete, especially with the ball in his hands, but he's also a guy that knows where to kind of sit down his routes, find those soft spots in those zones, and be a easy target for the quarterback. You talk about who I think can really usher in a smooth transition at that quarterback spot. I really do think it's Smith, kind of giving those easy access throws where you're not really pushing the ball down the field. That being said, you're dumping it off to Smith and he's going to work after the catch. This offense, I think, is clearly has taken that step from last year. I don't know if it's Bobby Petrino. I don't know if it's the maturation of the quarterback room, but it looks way better. You have the talent on the outside and your wide receivers. You have a loaded running back room, an offensive line that I think is taking some serious steps in the right direction. The worst part about it is Conner Weigman, again, looked like he was taking that step. He obviously the future of this program. That being said, like people who are writing Texas A&M off because they've lost Conner Weigman throughout the rest of the season, I think is woefully ignorant to how good Max Johnson is. Jimbo Fisher did a phenomenal job keeping him at Texas A&M, even though Conner Weigman got the job. And for Max Johnson, I don't get this twisted. I'm not like happy at all that Conner Weigman got hurt, right? Because he was putting it together. You see him dripping with arm talent. That being said, a cool story that Max Johnson, who sticks around, is going to get his opportunity to really show what he can do and lead a Texas A&M offense that I do think is extremely talented to do some special things in the SEC. You look around the SEC right now, it's gettable. Texas A&M's undefeated in the SEC conference right now, and there are not many teams where you're looking at. I mean, you look at where Alabama is. LSU, I mean, they're up and down as it gets. You look across this SEC landscape, there's not many teams. There's probably not any teams for me that you're looking at and saying Texas A&M can't get it done against those teams. I think they still have one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, certainly one of the best passing attacks because of all those playmakers on the outside. It sucks that Conner Weigman's hurt. I just was so happy to see him kind of putting it together. He's going to be back, no doubt about it. But Max Johnson can lead this Aggies team to an extremely successful season in 2023. Excited to see him do so. He's going to be able to do it in the rivalry game against Arkansas at AT&T Stadium. Very excited for that. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys as usual. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, again, want to hear from you guys, hear your takes on this Texas A&M offense under Max Johnson. Appreciate y'all, and we'll talk to you guys later.